While the Cowgirls have to navigate that murderer's row of top 20 teams in their tournament, Cowboy baseball basically gets the same treatment as the Cowboys get 3 ranked rivals to kick off this 2026 campaign.
You are Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma State Cowboys, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
How are we feeling, our Big 12 and Arkansas brethren? Shout out to the regulators and welcome back to Locked On Oklahoma State, your top stop for all things Cowboy and Cowgirl related. My name is Cody Stovall. I want to thank you kindly for stopping by to make this your first listen. We're available on all of your podcasting platforms, visually as well on YouTube. Find me personally on X at Alldeo State. Today, we're partially brought to you by Mazda. Mazda puts that same drive into every single detail. Wins defy the moment, but putting in the work, that defines you. Stay tuned for the highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward moments with Mazda. There's more to Mazda because there's also more to you. All right, we get to dive right into this baseball conversation that I've been waiting for, because last year did not go super swimmingly for Oklahoma State, and we had some of the best players in the country. For whatever reason, it just didn't quite come to fruition. We had to rely on some young arms, and I think it caused a little bit of chaos. We had some injuries that we dealt with that caused a little bit of chaos. There was some uncertainty at times on who was going to be the ace taking the bump. That sorted itself out with Hunter Watkins emerging as that guy. Unfortunately, Hunter Watkins is likely out for the season. We could get him back at the tail end of the year, like come Big 12 tournament time, possibly. And then Matthew Brown, a 6'5" Canadian who had a pretty emergent season, had a pretty good fall. He's out with an injury as well. So you lose 2 of your best pitchers before the season even starts, but it's okay, because help seemingly was on the way, and we get a new dude that's going to kick off the season today against Arkansas for Oklahoma State. So let's kind of dive into some of the Cowboys that are returning and some of the new dudes that could take Oklahoma State over the top this season. All right. Whenever you look at some of the returning guys, it's hard not to get excited. Brock Thompson showed massive flashes last year as a freshman before an injury. Aiden Miola was being projected as a potential major leaguer before injury. Both of those guys are back. How about the Enid High School product from an emergence that we've seen on and off? Garrett Scholl, he is back. Avery Ortiz missed all of last year basically with an injury. He's also back. You got Colin Brueggemann coming back. It is going to be a fifth-year version of Colin Brueggemann. We're talking about major league prospects. Colin Ritchie has always been and will always be a major league prospect, so getting him back is absolutely massive. How about Alex Conover, the 6'4", 205-pound Cali County product? Showed huge moments last year, not only in the outfield, but also with a big bat. And then pitching, you do have Ethan Lund back. I think Noah Weck coming back is a big deal. Drew Blake and Brendan Phillips are back. Matthew Brown, injured, but at least he is back. And then we got to go on to Mario Pesca. Since Hunter Watkins is hurt, it's pretty safe to assume that Hunter Watkins is going to take a big role. So what we do know is, with Matthew Brown being out and Hunter Watkins being out, that Hudson Barrett, the UC Santa Barbara transfer, is going to take the bump to begin the season for Oklahoma State against Arkansas, who, contingent upon what services you look at. Some places they're ranked 4th, 7th, 8th, 9th, but they're basically squarely in the top 10 at any service that you look at. Oklahoma State is typically in the 30s, most of the ranking services. And after the season we had last year, it's kind of fair to lump us into that category. And then we have BEDLAM this weekend as well. After we take on this first game, we get BEDLAM in game 2. So you get an old rival that's kind of stirring the pot recently again with Arkansas. You get BEDLAM, which the last meaningful BEDLAM was for a Big 12 title before they left for the SEC. So that was kind of cool. And then we close this thing out with Vanderbilt. They're a little bit of a rival because they beat us up pretty good in a series a couple years back. We got them back a little bit last year, but Josh Holliday also came from Vandy. So a lot of the things he learned from his dad are applicable in Stillwater, but there's a ton that he learned at Vanderbilt that is also applicable. I know words are still hard for me, for his ascension in Stillwater. Hudson Barrett, 6'5", 220-pound left-hander, has a 6-2 career record, a 2.1 ERA with 90 Ks, but he had a 1.9 ERA with 82 Ks alone before Tommy John. He earned his way into the starting role by having a .86 ERA, 0.86 ERA as a closer, which is what elevated him to that starter status. And before Tommy John, he was ranked top 5 in all of the country in Division I baseball. So if he can return to that form, Hudson Barrett is definitely going to be a guy that can replicate what we were likely to get out of Hunter Watkins. Insanely excited to see what this dude can do. Mario Pesca, 6'8", 225-pounder. Yeah, he's down like 15, 20 pounds from this previous season. On the other side of the mound, he had a 3.6 ERA this last year for the Cowboys, 6-2 record, 54 hits, but only 23 of those earned to go alongside 56 Ks and only 16 walks. He's very efficient, right? If you want to compare this to softball, I think he's a lot like Riley Crandall. He's going to put you in a position to allow your defense to go to work. He's going to get you out of precarious situations. He's not going to allow a lot of people to get on base, which was basically the exact opposite of somebody like a Noah Weck. Very happy he's back. He has a live arm. 6'1", 205 pounds. He can sling that thing 92 to 96 miles an hour for a fastball. Has wicked movement off of his 2-seam, 4-seam combo. He had a 3.4 ERA this last year with the Cowboys, 32 Ks, 22 walks, though, right? That is the biggest issue with Noah Weck, was his inconsistency and allowing players to get on base. Teams did hit 260 off of Noah Weck, which isn't bad. But he only allowed 12 earned runs off of 33 hits. So as much as he does get people on base, he has elite level stuff that gets him out of terrible situations. And we did watch that last year with Noah. There would be multiple times where he would allow the bases to get loaded, and then he would work himself out of it just because of pure talent. Another year under the belt for Noah Weck should be big. He had a nice fall. It should be a good year for him. And then lastly, Ethan Lund. Ethan Lund now kind of takes that spot of being one of the top guys. If it's not going to be Hudson Barrett, it's probably going to be Ethan Lund as that ace. The 6'5", 210-pound sophomore lefty was throwing 91 to 95 over the fall. He has a 79 to 81 mile-an-hour curveball and an 81 mile-an-hour changeup, so he can keep hitters on their heels. He can keep them guessing, and he has more than enough meat and taters behind that fastball to get out. So the 4.9 ERA was a little concerning, but he only gave up 10 hits last year, so he knows how to work. He knows how to get things done. He's got electric stuff that can move people out of the way. And then again, I think you have to take into consideration that Drew Blake, 2 years ago, absolutely huge season. Last year, for whatever reason, was a little bit of a regression for the Stillwater High School product, but he's a senior now. This has to be a big year for him. And then how about Brendan Phillips? Brendan Phillips might be one of the best stories for why you shouldn't just automatically take your spot in the draft if you need a little bit of development, because coming out of high school, Brendan Phillips was one of the top draft picks. A lot of people did not think he was going to end up at Oklahoma State because of his, ability to go straight to the majors. He came to Oklahoma State, and it has not worked out all that well for him so far. So if he would have taken the draft spot, there's a good chance that he would probably be AA, maybe single A, not even playing anymore if he would have went that route. Obviously, we don't know because he didn't. He went the college route. But the college route has not gone great. We can hoot and holler about in-game management scenarios for Rob Walton. The one thing we cannot discredit is any of the development. So I think whenever you're looking at some of the staff that we had this previous season and the lack of seeing Brendan Phillips, this could be a big moment for Coach Hawksworth. Because if you see a reemergence of Drew Blake and you see that same thing out of Brendan Phillips, I think that does in fact accentuate that, we may have gotten our guy that is into the new age metrics, right? He's into all the stat cast and figuring out the arm angles and angles of break. That was some stuff that Rob Walton, didn't necessarily utilize a ton of. So we should see an increase. And then again, offensively, it is impossible not to be excited about Brock Thompson being healthy, Avery Ortiz being healthy, Garrett Scholl being back, Aiden Miola healthy, Colin Ritchie back, Colin Brueggemann, Alex Conover. We've got enough talent to at least get excited about the potential. And another thing I think we need to be excited about, we've got a bunch of the 6'7", 6'8", 6'5" dudes on the bump, but defensively and even offensively to some degree, we've finally gone in a little bit of a different direction. This team offensively and in the field, I think, is going to look much more reminiscent of the early days of Josh Holliday, like the Donnie Walton kind of teams. They were scrappy, and they didn't launch angle everything 24/7, and color me insanely excited about that. Also, color me excited about the prospect of hiring with the right people. The right people happens to be Indeed. Listen, you don't just need a warm body to fill a spot. You need somebody with the credentials that can help your business get instantaneous benefits. And Indeed is going to sort through the nonsense for you. With Indeed sponsored jobs, you're going to find the quality candidates that you need by boosting your job listing to the people who fit your specific criteria, the skills, certifications, location, because you don't want to be hoping that somebody stumbles across your posts. I tell you, if I was hiring, I wouldn't just want some warm body to fill a spot. I'd want someone with real experience who can jump in right away. That's what you're going to love about Indeed. You can get specific and you can target exactly what you're looking for. It saves time because you're spending less energy sorting through the mismatches. And with sponsored jobs, your post gets seen by the candidates who are actually the right fit. And here's a stat that says all of it for you. In the minute that I've been talking, companies like yours have hired on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching, more time interviewing candidates who check all of the boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job premium status that it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. That is Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. But if you're hiring, do it the right way with Indeed, because Indeed you do. We got to talk about capitalization as well. And there's not a better place to do that than with FanDuel. The winter games are here. If you're anything like us, you're going to be locking in for the events that you can only see getting bigger and bigger with your investment. And that's why following the winter games on FanDuel makes the most amount of sense. From medal counts to individual events to finding your angle on the sports you care about the most, FanDuel gives you more ways to stay connected and into the action. The drama of curling that starts out super slow and then magically gets crazy at the end, speed skating, races decided by mere inches, hockey games that feel different right from the opening faceoff. That's right. America won their opening round in hockey. The women's team absolutely dominated Canada. How do you not love that? If you love it, get hooked up with FanDuel. They'll keep the entire Olympic experience engaging from start to finish. So the winter games are here, and there's not a better way for you to follow them all with FanDuel. Get with FanDuel today, where you can capitalize and obviously play your game with FanDuel. All right, so one of the few things that you've heard me complain about on this show in regards to the Matt Holliday effect was it didn't seem to work. Like recruiting-wise, yes, you're getting all of these massive individuals, right? Colin Bruggeman size guys, Nolan Schubert size guys. But I think in that, we missed our opportunities at times to play small ball. Well, if you listen to some of Josh Holliday's most recent interviews when he's talking about this particular ball club, one of the things that continuously gets brought up is the speed. And Josh Holliday himself has said Ezra Essex, a 5'7", 180-pounder, playing the outfield from Chicago, Illinois, of all places, is one of the fastest, if not the fastest player Josh Holliday's ever coached. And he said right next to them, if they were to have a foot race right now, Ezra Essex is probably going to win. But another outfielder that can also play some infield, 6 foot, 250-pounder, Sebastian Norman from Springfield, Missouri, he said would be right there. And so would be Remo. I'm probably going to mess up this name, Indominico. Those three are three of the fastest players that have ever come through Oklahoma State. And the fact that two of them are from Chicago is pretty cool. We don't typically recruit a ton in the Chicago area, to my knowledge. But then you have Aiden Miola coming back, 6'2", 215-pounder, has the MLB capabilities. He can play a lot of positions. On that hot corner seems to be his bread and butter. If he is healthy, he can lead this team. Brock Thompson, another one of those, as a freshman, was making a big impact this previous season, but a season got kind of stripped away from him. A healthy Brock Thompson is huge for Oklahoma State. Garrett Scholl, I think, is very reminiscent to Brock Thompson. Garrett Scholl had a very comparable freshman experience, and he was a guy that we were just trying to find ways to get on the field and get on the base pass because he was one of the fastest. So now that we know that we've got multiple guys faster than Garrett Scholl and faster than Avery Ortiz, that's flipping crazy. Another name that keeps getting brought up quite a bit is Danny Wallace, a freshman outfielder, 5'10", 200 pounds from Nebraska. He's an individual that people that have watched some of the fall games keep bringing up quite a bit. Another name getting brought up from a pitching angle might be Bryce LeBlanc. I know this is kind of a little bit different because he doesn't fall into the speed small ball category because he's 6'7", 233, but that's another name that keeps getting brought up. If Colin Ritchie is anything like the Colin Ritchie we've seen for the last couple of years, when healthy, this could be huge. What could a fifth-year version of Colin Brueggemann look like? We've always wondered. Now we get to find out. Same could be said to some degree about Alex Conover. But the speed, the athleticism on this team are things that continuously keep getting brought up. And if you're an Oklahoma State fan and you remember the beginning of Josh Holliday's time at Oklahoma State, we had to be scrappy because at that point in time, we hadn't built up the recruiting cachet to get every 6'7", 6'8" dude across the country that we wanted. And that's basically what it was. And I love Matt Holliday's teaching, but I think we got so enamored with the launch angle stuff that basically if you were under 6'2", we probably weren't really recruiting you all that much. I know I'm being somewhat cute, but look at the last, 7 years of rosters? The average player, even factoring shortstops and second basemen and catchers, it was probably 6'3", 6'4". It was, we were just big. We were just a big team. And for years, a big team, even with Nolan McClain, even with Carson Benj, we were so reliant on the long ball that we couldn't piece wins together. We couldn't string things together. It was get a couple on, launch a bomb, or suffer a loss. This year might be a little bit different. We have some guys that can obviously go yard with one swing of a bat easily, but it's not every single player on the lineup. Like, seriously, you can go back and look at some of the previous lineups. And 1 through 9, every hitter was 6'4", 6'5", 6'7", 6'8". It's who we were. It's what we were. And it was fun in recruiting, being able to get all these Mason Schubert, Colin Brueggemann kind of guys. It was a blast. But it became a little bit of a limitation. So we were so hell-bent on being dominant pitching and long ball hitting clubs that when we played small ball clubs like UC Santa Barbara and Dallas Baptist and Oral Roberts, it killed us. We could not small ball with small ball teams. And I would be frustrated talking about, guys that probably should have been playing more, like Garrett Scholl. Get more speed on the base pass. Create more havoc. And now we have tons of that. The common consensus is that Ezra Essex, if he hits the ball, if it's not clearly picked up by an infielder really quick, he's going to be turning tons of doubles, right? The common consensus is Ezra Essex will have more doubles on the year than singles just because of how insanely fast he is. And then you've got Sebastian that is evidently right there with him. So finally, we could go back to that small ball, scrappy, young ball club that just had high IQ, that tried harder than everybody else, that worked longer hours than everybody else. That was the beginning of Josh Holliday. That was the teams that were good enough to make it to Omaha, because that's the teams that did make it to Omaha. I think we fell in love with the long ball. I think we fell in love with having the ability to go get all of the biggest players in the country we wanted, right? Because, again, if you're a 6'8" power hitter, Oklahoma State, Vanderbilt, Arkansas, Mississippi State, Florida, those were really like your primary options. So we got our pick of the litter. And we've had so many All-Americans individually that just for whatever reason weren't able to carry a team. I'm excited. Color me excited. Last year was extremely disappointing. But the one thing I've been screaming into this microphone about now for 3.5 years when it comes to baseball is, can we get back to the Holliday teams that were gritty and they would fight and claw and scratch and steal and suicide squeeze their way into victories? Can we get back to some of that? And it's fallen on deaf ears year after year after year after year. Until now, it appears. So we've got more speed than we've potentially ever had before. We've got the fastest player that Josh Holliday's potentially ever coached before. So we may not be living and dying off the long ball anymore. That might, I don't know, it might just get us where we need to go. And here's another fun thing. We're not the hunted this season. For one of the few times ever in the last 15 years, shoot, I mean, even before Holliday, we were really successful at baseball. So I think you go back 30 some odd years, whatever. I think that this is just a little bit of a different complexion kind of ball club. Of course, Gary Ward wanted to launch bombs too, but in between the bomb launchers, you had guys that were designed to get on base. Could Robin Ventura swing for the fences every at bat? Sure, but he didn't. He liked playing some semblance of small ball. He liked manufacturing runs. That's it. I should have titled this segment that. We haven't been able to manufacture runs in a long time. It's been long ball or bust for years and years and years. This year might be a little bit different. So color me a little bit more excited. Speaking of excitement, go get some excitement in your life with a beautiful drive. A beautiful drive in a Mazda. They always keep the game moving forward because, they know that there's more to a score than what's just simply on the screen. It takes intentionality. It takes passion. It takes a ton of effort to raise the bar continuously. Well, that's what Mazda does. They put that extra work in off the court, off the field, off the floor to dial in every detail, to give everything that extra fire that you deserve. That grit, that never quit attitude is how Mazda puts that same passion into every model. Highlights make the reel, but what it takes to get there makes it all count. There's more to Mazda, just like there's more to you. So go get with a Mazda and move by Mazda. All right, last we had to talk about the Cowgirls. The roller coaster ride continues as we lose to a top 10 LSU after beating number 17 Georgia. We turn around today and we beat number 8 in America, Texas A&M. And the poetic justice behind this is even sweeter when you take into consideration that the last out to win the game was Talon Edwards. Shout out to Talon and Pam. Talon had a really, really good game. But it is kind of cool, her being the last out. That poetic justice of taking down number 8 ranked Texas A&M. Ruby Malin, had a good performance, but they were hitting her. She limited the damage a decent amount. Riley Crandall comes in and she closes it out. Right? It looked good. It looked really good. And I'm really excited. Michaela Warwick out there was pretty cool to see as well. I didn't mind seeing a couple of former Cowgirls, get out there and have some fun. But it does make the win a whole lot better when you take into consideration how it all went down. Now, there is one thing that I think we may have established. We're good enough to beat top 10 teams. We're also bad enough at times to lose to not top 25 teams occasionally if we don't get out to an early lead. That seems to be the common denominator so far. When we get out to an early lead, we're good enough to cling on, right? We were up 6-0, and then we allowed the number 17 ranked team in the country come back to only win by 1. Very comparable today as well. We were up by 6 at one point in time. We allowed them to come back. We won 9-8. We won the other day 6-5. But when we go down, I haven't seen us have the ability to crawl back into the game. So I know it's early, but it almost kind of feels like that's the key to success. We have enough offensive capabilities to do that, but so far it appears that we're not good at chasing teams down. But if we can get a lead, we're good enough defensively, offensively to limit the runs and give ourselves an opportunity to win. So let me know if you disagree down in the comment section. But yeah, it was nice to see the combination of Ruby Malin and Riley Crandall get a dub against a top 10 team after that LSU performance. And again, Ruby Malin is not dominant, but she's definitely good enough to lead us into a top 3, top 4 scenario in the Big 12 conference this season, as we've already seen. This is a continuous roller coaster of emotions with Cowgirls softball, and they're about to experience another one as they take on number 7 UCLA today as well. So we got number 7 UCLA on deck after number 8 A&M goes down to the Cowgirls, and then Oklahoma State faces a top 10 Arkansas, followed by there's a poll that has OU ranked number 18th in baseball. I mean, they weren't ranked in some of the other polls. And then Vandy, they're number 23 in some polls, 21 in some polls, 28 in some polls. So it depends on where you look. But whether it's Arkansas, OU, or Vanderbilt, they're all ranked in at least one poll. And that has me excited. This could be a small ball-ish team that athletically manufactures wins by manufacturing runs instead of living and dying off of the long ball and a 6'8" hurler coming in to throw 96. It's different. It's different than it's looked, right? So I'm excited. And I kind of like the idea that we get to begin the season with 3 legitimate tests. 3 teams that are probably going to be tournament teams. They should be. So if we, let's say, go 2-1, okay, yeah, it could be a fun year. Even if we go 1-2, it could still be a fun year because these are top-notch teams. Of all 3, I think we can all circle the one we just cannot lose. You can't lose Bedlam. If you beat a top 10 team to kick this thing off in Arkansas, and then you beat a top 25 team in Vandy, but you lose to OU in the middle, it almost feels like a lost weekend. Kind of, but not really. Anyways, that's all we're going to have for this one right here. I have talked to an Arkansas fella, and if he can swing things, he's going to jump in, and we'll talk about the game live post-game. So hopefully he can get off in time, and we can do that. Feel free to swing on by later for that action, and hopefully we're talking good about the Cowboys' performance and getting a dub over Arkansas. All right, y'all. You know the drill. I love you. God bless. Go Pokes. Thank you for tuning in to make this your first listen here on Locked On Oklahoma State. You could be anywhere, so happy you choose to be here. Do me a favor, hit the like button if you liked it. Dislike if you didn't. That's okay, too. More importantly, share, comment, and subscribe. My podcast and people out there, you're everything that makes us work, right? You know what the deal is, so you know what to do. Go do what you do. Hit the stars. Leave some reviews. All right, y'all. Later, my taters.